Let's get right to our exclusive headliner, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Madam Speaker, welcome.
Good morning.
I want to begin with impeachment. You told your colleagues on Friday to be prepared to send the impeachment articles to the Senate this week. So will it happen this week? And have you settled on House managers for the trial?
Well, what I did say is I would be consulting with my members this week on Tuesday morning at our regular caucus meeting that we would vote to send them over, and we'll determine in our meeting when we send them over. But I've always said I would send them over, so there shouldn't be any mystery to that. What we did want, though, and we think we accomplished in the past few weeks, is that we wanted the public to see the need for witnesses with firsthand knowledge of what happened, documentation, which the president has prevented from coming to the Congress as we review this.
But as you know, Leader McConnell didn't budge on witnesses at all. He's not promising.
Well, I think that he will be accountable to the American people for that. Over 70% of the American people think that the president should have those witnesses testify. So again, it's about a fair trial. They take an oath to have a fair trial, and we think that would be with witnesses and documentation. So that dynamic now the ball is in their court to either do that or pay a price for not doing it.
One of the points that Senator McConnell has made is that they're just following that he's going to follow the Clinton model, that you have a couple of weeks of presentations by each side, and then you have a vote on witnesses. It was a 100-0 vote for that procedure back in 1998, 1999. So why isn't it fair now?
It isn't the same thing. There are at least 6 reasons, and I could take the whole program going on how it is different.
What's the biggest one?
The biggest one is that the witnesses were all deposed. You know, those witnesses that eventually came were all deposed. The president has not allowed the witnesses to be deposed for the House or for the Senate yet. So the evidence was there. It was just a question of bringing it more to the forefront. So that's a very major difference. You can depose the witnesses or you can't. But the fact is one of the things that I think is really important, what I think people should be very aware of, very unusually, the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has signed on to a resolution to dismiss the case, that, in his view, may be
But he's
good.
committed to having the presentations first now.
I'm telling you that he signed on Thursday to a resolution to dismiss the case. Dismissing is a cover-up. Dismissing is a cover-up. If they want to go that route again, the senators who are thinking now about voting for witnesses or not, they will have to be accountable for not having a fair trial.
You made the point that the president has blocked the witnesses, and that's true, but some of your critics have said that the House could have done a lot more to exhaust the alternatives, to go through the entire process in the courts and get to see if they would rule on witnesses. One of those critics is a very important figure in the Senate, Senator Susan Collins. Here's what she said.
The House chose not to go to court to enforce its subpoenas. So there are gaps in what the House has sent us. I don't understand the House's decision on that.
So that isn't even true. We are in court on the witnesses. It could take a very long time.
Well, you pulled back the subpoena on John Bolton.
Well, but on the other witnesses, we have been in court, and we haven't eliminated the possibility of ever subpoena and going forward with Bolton. But he has said in this 2-week period, that was another piece of progress that we made, that he would respond to a subpoena from the United States Senate. But the fact is that the President of the United States, again, quite different from President Clinton. President Clinton allowed the witnesses to come forward. President Trump has prevented that from happening.
Why not wait for the courts to rule?
Well, because it'll be, how long do the courts take? We have confidence in our case that it is impeachable, and this president is impeached for life, regardless of any gamesmanship on the part of Mitch McConnell. However, that could still come to bear. But we're confident in the impeachment, and we think that it is enough testimony to remove him from office. However, we want the American people to see the truth. And why are they afraid of the truth?
So if the Senate does not subpoena John Bolton and other witnesses, will the House move to subpoena
Well, it's
him?
not excluded. It's not excluded, but we'll see what they do. But we do think that there's enough evidence to remove the president from office. But we've done our job. We have defended the Constitution of the United States. We would hope that the Senate would do that as well. This is about, in your introduction, you talked about, well, the War Powers Act and this. It's a constitutional challenge, and we feel very proud of the courage of our members to vote to impeach the president. There's nothing the Senate can do that can ever erase that.
Any second thoughts about holding on for 3 weeks?
No. We feel that it was has produced a very positive result in terms of additional emails and unredacted information that has come forward. That Bolton has said that he would testify if subpoenaed by the Senate. Other information that has come forward. And more importantly, raising the profile of the fact that we need to have witnesses and documentation, and if we don't, that is a cover-up.
You know, just before we came on the air, President Trump, literally 30 seconds before we came on the air, President Trump sent out a tweet to me asking me to ask you a question. We're going to put it up on the screen right now. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but as you see there, right there, he calls you Crazy Nancy, again, wants you to justify Adam Schiff's comments during the House hearings, and he says your hearings were unfair and biased. And this builds on what he did on Friday night. I want to show him on Friday night on Fox News.
She is obsessed with impeachment. She has done nothing. She's going to go down as one of the worst speakers in the history of our country.
Let me just say, it's Sunday morning. I'd like to talk about some more pleasant subjects than the erratic nature of this President of the United States. But he has to know that every knock from him is a boost. He's the president who said, I should have impeached George Bush because of the war in Iraq, and now he's saying, I'm obsessed. I held off on this because, frankly, I said, Donald Trump is not worth impeachment.
You did say that.
He's not worth it. But when he crossed that line on Ukraine, he violated the Constitution in such a way that could not be ignored.
And you
so, again, I don't like to spend too much time on his crazy tweets because everything he says is a projection. When he calls somebody crazy, he knows that he is. Everything he says, you can just translate it back to who he is. But again, it's Sunday morning. Let's be optimistic about the future, a future that will not have Donald Trump in the White House. One way or another, 10 months from now, we will have an election if we don't have him removed sooner. But again, he will be impeached forever.
I want to talk about Iran as well. I'm not sure it's a more pleasant subject, but I do want to talk about that.
Well,
this
no,
morning.
it's not unpleasant to talk about the Constitution of the United States. This is what we take an oath to protect and defend. This is what this president has violated again and again. This is a president who has said, Article 2 says, I can do whatever I want. It does not. This is a constitution that Benjamin Franklin said is a republic if we can keep it, not a monarchy. And Article 2 says, well, I can do whatever I want, makes it a monarchy. So this is in defiance of the valor of our founders and what they established, and just loyal to his oath of office. And so, you know, as I say, every knock from him is a boost, and everything he says about somebody else is a projection.
You
of
said
his
he's
own
violating
weakness.
the Constitution again and again. Do you think it's possible that the House might have to file new articles of impeachment?
Well, let's just see what the Senate does. The ball will be in their court soon. And as I say, we think that the American people have been very fair about saying, yes, we do want to see witnesses. That wasn't part of the discussion 3 weeks ago.
Let's move on
now.
to Iran right now. Several of your colleagues have taken issues with the administration's justification for taking out General Soleimani. They said it was designed to stop an imminent attack, and President Trump has said that Soleimani was planning attacks on 4 U.S. embassies. I know you can't talk specifically about the intelligence you've received, but do you think the administration has been straight with the American people about the reasons for taking out General Soleimani?
I don't think the administration has been straight with the Congress of the United States. When I was informed with the confirmation that the United States had taken out Soleimani, who is a terrible person, let's not be confused, and the motivations of Iran are bad, so there's no question about that. And again, with my intelligence background, I'm fully aware of the danger of Soleimani. However, what we want to do is not escalate a war. When they called and told me, the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs confirmed that we were involved in this action, I said, well, you should have informed the Gang of Eight in advance of this leadership and the chairs of the Intelligence Committee and ranking members, House and Senate. We had to keep it close. You had to keep it close. Well, we had to keep it close because we didn't want it to get out. What you're saying is you don't trust the Congress of the United States with sources and methods and timing. Well, we had to keep it close.
But
that's just not, that's wrong. That is wrong. And so then, as you have seen, even Republicans have complained about the nature of their presentation at the classified briefing. They have to understand Congress has the power to declare war. There is a War Powers Act. We passed legislation further defining that this week. This is an important discussion. I don't want to say forget Donald Trump. This is about all presidents and all Congresses as to
and it's about having the support of the American people as the United States takes military action. So that's why I'm asking.
That's the most important thing, and there's no appetite in the public for war.
But is what the public's being told consistent with what you're being told privately?
Well, I'm not absolutely sure what the public is being told because it changes every time you see something. But this is nothing. Let me just say, I want to say this because it's Sunday morning. I just took a group, bipartisan group, in December to the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, a very bloody battle, thousands and thousands of Americans killed in that battle, and it was a decisive war in World War II, decisive battle in World War II. And it was remarkable, an Allied effort to defeat the Germans there. And this glorious ceremony of a few days, but also the closing ceremony, the King of Belgium, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, the President of Germany, saying when you freed Belgium and Luxembourg, you freed Germans too in winning this war. It was beautiful. But why I bring it up now in relationship to this is, at the end, one of our veterans, and we were there really to see our veterans, thank our veterans, praise our veterans, embrace our veterans, as we have done at other anniversaries. One of the veterans spoke for the group, 90-some years old, beautiful, lovely, spoke beautifully about the sacrifice, the struggle, spoke about the band of brothers, the allies, the effort, the challenges. And at the end, he said, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I urge all of you to pray for peace, for our veterans, for our men and women in uniform, for our children, for our future, for the world.
The question is
we have to move toward peace, not escalation of war.
The question is how we get there. We're seeing now demonstrations in the streets of Iran against the regime. Do you support those protesters, and would it be a good thing if they brought the regime down?
Well, the protesters are protesting, as I understand it, this brand of protesters, about the fact that that plane went down, and many students were on that plane, and these are largely students in the street. I think the Iranians should have not had commercial flights going off when there was.
They're calling out the regime for lying. They're saying death to Khamenei as well.
No, well, whatever it is. But the fact is this: there were protesters in the streets before against the regime. After the taking out of Soleimani, there were protesters in the street joined together, as you know, against us. That wasn't good. Taking down this plane is a terrible, terrible tragedy, and they should be held accountable for letting commercial flights go at a time that was so dangerous. But there are different reasons why people are in the street. Of course, we would love to see the aspirations of the people of Iran realized with a better situation there. But escalating the situation unless we've exhausted every other remedy.
Which we haven't?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. And if the first action to be taken on the threat of, there are a lot of bad actors who are doing bad things and threatening bad things to us. We know that, Iran being one of them, and it being its proxies doing bad things to our interests throughout the world. But how do we deal with that in a way that calms rather than escalates?
I want to ask you a question about the 2020 election and foreign policy again. Bloomberg is reporting this Friday the possibility that there's an investigation now on whether or not the Russians are trying to help President Trump and hurt Joe Biden. Again, we see that right there. U.S. pros Russia's targeting Biden in 2020 election meddling. The probe comes as senior U.S. officials are warning that Russia's election interference in 2020 could be more brazen than in 2016 or the 2018 midterm elections. How worried are you about Russian interference in 2020? Are we doing all we can to prevent it?
No, and the President of the United States is in complete denial about Russia's role. As I have said, in terms of this president, all roads lead to Putin. He said he's not going to accept the assessment of our own intelligence agent that they were very much involved in 2016 election, that 24/7 now they are still engaged. He's trying to blame it on Ukraine and this silliness that has been debunked again and again, but he and his folks still keep advancing it. Everything that he has done, whether it's in Syria vis-a-vis the Turks, whether it's been in Ukraine in terms of withholding assistance as they try to fight the Russians, his denial about their role in our election then and now, all roads lead to. And sometimes I wonder about Mitch McConnell, too. Why is he an accomplice to all of that? He has resisted resources going in a manner commensurate with the threat for state not agencies, whichever they are in a state, could be the Secretary of State or whatever, to protect our infrastructure, our critical infrastructure of elections. He says you shouldn't even call that critical infrastructure. So it's all of a piece with them, and that's why it's really important for the facts to come forward, the witnesses to be heard, the documentation to be reviewed, so that the American people can see, so that no other president in the future could ever think that it's okay to engage in the way that this president has, to undermine the Constitution, undermine our national security in doing so, as well as jeopardizing the integrity of our elections.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.